Hey, welcome to the Inner Circle podcast, where growth minded leaders come together to build better businesses and better lives. I'm your host, Hector Alvarado. Here, we don't do theory, we share real lessons, real systems, and real strategies you can use right away. This is a community for people committed to growth, impact, and supporting each other on the journey. You're in the right room, my friends. Let's get started. All right, folks. Like I said, we've got a really good one today to just close up our ops, excellence and ops whole package that we've been putting together here, where we talked about excellence in operational efficiencies. Yeah, and so we're gonna lock it down with cash flow and cash flow mastery. All right. So, as many of you know, I've talked to you folks in the past. I've worked with some really large organizations in my career, some seven-figure, eight-figure organizations, and some industry giants. And one that I always name is PepsiCo because it truly is, an industry giant. But here's the one universal truth that I have found. And most businesses don't don't die from lack of profit. Unfortunately, they die from lack of cash and cash flow management. And so one of my interesting or one of the interesting organizations that I found as I was doing my study and in preparing for this call today was that Amazon. Although they weren't profitable for years, and I assume, well, they weren't profitable, that means they weren't doing well. And unfortunately, that wasn't the truth. They weren't profitable, but yet they were still cash strong. And although I see this all the time with plenty of contractors, landscapers, HVAC guys, trucking companies, like gyms is a big one, and they show profit, but yet they're still begging the bank for payroll money at the end. And I'm like, how does that happen? Well, let's do the breakdown of why this occurs. In profitable companies, they run out of cash because they may not truly understand their cash flow management. And another reason, like that I've found, and what we're going to talk about today, is seasonality and predictable cash cycles. We're also going to dive into strategies used by elite operators and some iconic entrepreneurs. And then we're going to leave you at the end of the call with how to protect your business with a super cool 13-week cash flow forecast. That tool will be dropped as part of this call and as part of the tutorial into the community. So you'll have access to it. It's got some pretty cool formulas. And so I'm sure you guys will enjoy putting that together for your businesses. But let's break it down. Let's understand why profitable companies still drown. And that is, like, that profit is great. Profit is theory. Profit gets you to where you want to go in your goals. However, cash is the long-term survival. And Elon Musk said it best when Tesla was on the brink of crashing. And they said at times Tesla was only a few weeks away from running out of money. But they had record revenue, they were growing, they were on demand, but payroll, supply chain, and capital needs were suffocating the company. And so this is the trap that many business founders and entrepreneurs fall into, especially at startup and during growth phases. And so we're going to discuss some of these real cash traps today so that we can get a good visibility around them. And one that comes to mind for me right off the bat is payment timing, right? You are invoicing 30 to 60 days for your activity, but like you still have weekly payroll to pay every 2 weeks, or depending on your payroll cycle. So you have to align what are some of the payable recordings and payable timings to when your expenses and your outbound activity takes place. Another one is similarly tied to that, but it's accounts receivables, right? Like you might have $200,000 in profit, but I've seen a lot of folks with $0 in the bank because the receivables are not timely. When are you invoicing? Are you waiting, 14, 15 days, a month to invoice, or are you invoicing instantly after the job is done? It's timing of this type of activity that nets you cash flow positive in the other side. You know what? Another cash trap that I see, this is more geared towards retail or wholesale type of organizations, is inventory. They carry tons of inventory. This is also seen with construction companies too, by the way. If you have a construction division in your business and you're carrying or purchasing materials, prior to you invoicing or getting some form of deposit to cover the material costs in advance, that will cash strap you. So these are some of the cash flow killers that I want to put out there and make sure that the team here understands what are some of the highlights, what are some of the watch outs that I need to look out for. Jeff Bezos used working float to scale Amazon. As I was digging again into like names of individuals that had done cost cash flow management well, I understood that what he did is he had customers pay him today while Amazon paid suppliers later. So, well, what does that mean? So, you invoice today, you get paid tomorrow, but you have supplier terms at 45 to 90 days payables. So you build yourself that timeline to enable the cash flow to be used as leverage, because that cash advantage equals competitive advantage. Jeff Bezos understood it, and I want to share that knowledge with you folks as entrepreneurs and leaders to go back to your businesses and understand what are some of our cash flow practices and what are we doing as organizations to ensure we don't fall onto those traps, right? Another one that I hear as almost as excuses is the seasonality. Well, seasonality kills my business. I can only do so much in the summers, or I can only do so much in the winters. And I like to disagree, because I think seasonality isn't the problem. It's the lack of planning that you put into going into the season. And so I've had many conversations, and particularly with gym owners, with landscapers, who tend to tell me, yeah, well, that's not true. Like I try to plan around, and I said, all right, let's break it down. And I hear the gym example, right? They peak in January, February, when they have all the new year, new me people, and they drive that business activity, and then it drops off in the summer. And then similarly, you have the same thing with landscaping in the spring and summer. Everybody's excited about getting their lawns or their backyards into tip-top shape, so they go hire landscapers, and then by the winter time, this activity drops, right? We hear this about retail, where Q4, Christmas season, that's like their big spike, and then Q1 it just drops like a cliff, right? Because everybody's already done all their shopping. Same thing could be for tourism. But what the elite operators do when it comes to this type of activity is they actually operate in a way that allows them to have smart revenue built out throughout the entire year. So let's go back to the gym scenario, right? The gyms, what they'll do, or what they should be doing, and if you have this issue in your business where it peaks at a certain time, think about some of these applications. They thought about higher tier memberships, higher tier to cover off the drop off in some of the seasonality gaps. They implemented reoccurring monthly billing so that they never get behind on anybody that signs up. They also put together like these corporate fitness partnerships to engage corporations to send their people in. And another one would be like personal training subscriptions to have another avenue of revenue to stream into their business. The one that I like the most is for landscapers, because this one for me is one that I've been working with a lot of landscapers of lately, and they're a fun bunch. They certainly have a lot of challenges that are pretty applicable across the board to any service type industry. And so when it comes to their challenges, they always say, well, summer's great, but then the winter, fall, it goes downside. And that's because they're focused on one-time service versus focusing on reoccurring maintenance packages. If you sign up a reoccurring maintenance package, you have them for the entire of the season, and then you sell them on a winter package, winter maintenance package, a summer package, and you have that customer throughout the entire length of the year. And similarly, if that customer doesn't want one season, you could go chasing and selling the opposite seasonality package, right? And so that ties into reoccurring revenue that you can tie into your businesses to allow you to fluctuate your revenue so that you have consistency and that you have a good flow and that you're not dipped by some of those seasonality issues that come up. So again, I don't think seasonality, if I hear seasonality is an excuse, I'll call you out on it. I'll tell you it is an excuse. You have to just plan, because that's really what it boils down to. And so like another key component that I saw in my studies was Shopify. This is a SaaS company, and you would think, well, SaaS isn't seasonal, but like how can they get into some of these issues? But what is that can take a dive is customer cash behavior. You know, Shopify incentivizes annual prepay. Why would they do that? Because they know that you're going to buy a lot during Christmas time. You're going to buy during like festive seasons. And so if you prepay from an annual perspective, they can give you discounts for paying up front. They understand their predictable cash runway because now they have this in place, and that allows them the opportunity to invest ahead for future revenue cycles and future materials that they need to purchase. So all of this to tell you, like, think ahead, in that the cash that you have there gives you the freedom to build things long before the market sees them. So it's something that a lot of people, even like Warren Buffett, he has a secret float, right? Insurance companies and within his package, within his portfolios, use them, and they collect premiums up front because they know that they're going to pay out the claims later. But while he does that, he takes the float, invests it into compounding investments that generate wealth for him down the road. So like that strategy is quite big, and it's applicable to him, but the principle is still the same, right? If we think back of companies like Airbnb, they take security deposits up front. And this allows them to hold that security deposit until when everything is paid out, then they pay their partner vendors. The partner vendors are the last ones to get paid. And I know because I have several Airbnb homes out there, and I'll tell you, like, Airbnb gets paid first, and I get paid last. So
Mm.
that's sort of how their model works, right? Home builders taking into construction draws. If you have a construction department or a building department, I'm sure this is something you're used to, and if you're not, you should be making sure you have these in your organization. And so, we're looking to smooth out your cash flow and your revenue. That's really what this whole thing is about. And so, what are some of the strategies that you can do that? We talked about deposits up front. This is applicable for contractors or any service type of industries. You could pre-build discounts, like we talked about that SaaS example at Shopify, or gyms where they give you discounts if you pay in advance. Um, the one that I think is really sort of cool is the deferred service bundles. And this is offered by travel industries and hospitality industries. And then where they bundle you in for your airfare, your rental car, and the insurance package that comes with it. You buy it all in, they bundle you up, you get some cost savings. But all of this is to ensure that there is a cash flow element that is removed and provides an instant cash to those organizations that they're working with. One that I also believe is critical as you're starting out your business is payment automation. And this is really cool because it starts to ensure that there's no human delay. And that is something that, I know Willie will talk a little bit about at the end. You'll share your stories, but that whole billing cycle and when we would receive payment caused such a lag. And sometimes it was months before payments were received. Meanwhile, man, like you had truck payments, you had payroll, you had fuel costs, all these things have to be paid out. And so the sooner you invoice, the sooner you get paid, and the sooner you can act on collecting. So that's something that it's important for us, because predictable revenue builds calm leadership, and it allows for a truly aggressive strategy. So I wanted us to take away that today and really understand, like, putting a lot of effort into your cash flow principles and practices are super required for the survival of your organizations. And so one of the key tools that we will provide, as part of the OBS community for you, is a 13-week cash forecast system. And this will make you think like a CFO and not like a hustler, so that you're not spinning wheels out there, okay? This is going to give you some real information that you're going to have to populate, but if you use it correctly, this will give you a system that you have 90-day runway to detect problems early, so that you can plan hiring and invest properly, you can manage your debt smartly, and you can handle those seasonality dips with true intention. And so, what are some of the data points that are going to go into this 13-week cash flow system? You're going to need your starting cash input. You want to know what you have in the bank. You're going to understand and need to input your weekly inflows. So, what is confirmed, what has been billed, and what has been produced, right? And what it will be expected to be collected. So that's invoiced and what has been produced. And your weekly outflows. So your fixed and variable expenses. When you put all that in, then you'll have to add in your payroll cycles. And then you'll have some tax numbers to crunch in there so that you know what your tax obligations are. You're going to populate that into the spreadsheet. And then this will have a contingency buffer field that is going to be put together for you. And so once you complete this tool, and we don't have it here for us today, but we have it into the community. We'll have it there as part of the tutorial. I'll show you some inputs on how to complete it during that call. I felt like it was better during the tutorial to draw you to go see the course, but also to have the proper time to instruct you on how to populate the spreadsheet, versus here today where it's going to be more dialogue around cash flow. But what it'll give you is weekly rhythm, and so that you understand and you can forecast activity to minimize those unknowns and those exceptions that happen sometimes, because I hear it all the time, like, oh, I wasn't expecting to see that invoice now, and I wasn't expecting to have to pay that out today, or I wasn't expecting to see an invoice be this delayed, and now I'm in trouble, right? And so, like, those are the type of concepts that you can gain visibility on by applying this tool. And remember that, like, great companies don't check on cash flow, they manage it. So if you truly want to be great and you truly want to be a leader in this in your industry, you're going to want to get a clear focus on managing your cash flow activity. So we always talk about leaders' mindsets and how should we interpret some of the information here today. And I'll tell you, it has to be with discipline. Leadership is always about discipline, and cash flow management is no different than that. It's super critical that you understand this is not a one and done. This is going to be a one and forever. Like, you're going to do it repetitive. You're going to do it every day, every week, because it's the most important part of your business. It's what it's going to ultimately yield that profitability goals that you have. And so, again, it's one of those ones that isn't sexy. No one claps. No one's sitting there giving you high fives because your cash flow is in great position, right? No one's doing that. There's no big dashboard that says your cash flow is winning. But at the same time, this is the one that separates those companies that can scale versus the ones that are stuck. And it's the one that gives you calmness versus chaos. And again, it's what makes a difference between a leader and an operator, right? Own your cash, it because that's going to allow you to own your business to then in the future own your freedom. So, I hate it and I don't want any of you to be out there ever saying I couldn't make payroll because we ran out of cash. So the key today is to ensure that you understand the importance of cash flow principles and management. And so, Willie, I'll turn to you to maybe share a little bit about your experiences and how you've had to deal with the cash flow crisis and what were some of your learnings and implementations that you put in place to help you overcome that.
Yeah, for sure, Hector. Uh, it brings a lot of memories back when we talk about cash flow issues. It's something that was a huge issue in my business, especially when we were growing and not making profit. Then that was became a real issue. And I would say like you talked about the invoicing. Well, we were, yeah, when we didn't have the process in place of getting our paperwork quickly to the office and invoicing it, where we set it up where we would invoice daily, and everything that happened yesterday had to be invoiced the next day. And so that changed a lot just by getting those invoices out, because before that, we a lot of times had hauled loads that weren't invoiced for 20 days later.
Right.
And yeah, just not a clear process in place, and not something that was focused on getting done.
Right. And so like
So
the daily activity was not being tracked, and so there was loads that fell between the cracks and particularly some of the full loads, right? And so
yeah,
there's the watch out in your story there for the group. The reoccurring activity was easy to capture
that's right.
because you knew it. Every day you were doing that. But the one-off stuff, okay, we took a load from Edmonton to Vancouver, stuff
Yeah,
that was completely out of the scope of everybody's eyes, that fell between the cracks, and all of a sudden, 20, 30 days it hasn't been invoiced.
yeah. Or the driver didn't hand in his paperwork until a couple weeks later. And so, yeah, that was all set up and tracked. Every single order that was getting through dispatch needed to get invoiced the following day.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. And then on the collecting, you touched on that. Like that's yeah, for a long time we didn't focus on really keeping track on how old each invoice was getting, and then yeah, I remember at one point I think 10-15% of all our receivables were over 90 days, and then it was, yes, it was, what are we going to do about it? And we got it down to where basically we didn't have much outstanding over 60 days, and then even over 30 days was a low percentage.
That's
And so
right.
we would track that percentage every month, where our receivables are sitting at, how old are our receivables. So I that's another one I would set up in any business, to track those receivable
You'll
reports.
want to make sure that you have, as a threshold, and this is where a lot of people make mistakes, is they believe that after 60 days they start to action it. And
Hmm.
and they're like, well, it's in 60 days, so now I should start calling. Wrong, because if you make your first call at 60 days, you won't get paid until like 120 days.
Yeah.
So, like, start calling at 15 days. You're 15 days late. Like, you're already late at 15 days. So, there's nothing stopping you from actioning it then.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to mention. You actually train your customers what you're okay with. If
Yeah.
you let that go that old, they kind of, oh, okay, this is what I can get away with, and that's what they're gonna keep paying you at. And I remember there was a guy in Peace River. What was the company called? But whatever. They were selling fuel and oil, so we always had a bill there. And this guy would call me um, 15 days after invoice date, just saying they had, I think, 21-day due date or something on there. And just every single time he would call me and say, you better pay your bill. And like he was so on it all the time where, okay, you all of a sudden start to react to that because you know this guy is going to call you. You have to pay this bill. And so he trained us to, okay, you better pay this. And
That's right. I love it. I love that story because it's fundamentally like best practice, right? It's like
yeah,
someone's already at 15 days. Hey, like what's stopping you from paying? I already did the job. Time to get paid.
yeah, yeah, he was ahead of the ball, I would say, on getting paid.
Right? And so
Yeah,
that's important, and in some
yeah,
industries, you're able to capture a deposit before you provide the service, but not everybody has that luxury. And so, making sure that you stay close to the activity post completion of the task or job or service is critical. So itemize it, like have a touch point, first touch point, second, third, and action it and be diligent, like be relentless to collect. You are always on top of that, like, and like nothing went sideways. Like you were able to go back, and even if before it ever got to a collections or something like that, you negotiated a deal or some sort of settlement, but you
yeah.
were able to capture something.
And then the other thing I was going to add is we had also an incentive program in place. And this was more for our larger customers, but we offered them a 2% kickback on their account if they would pay within 20 days or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a
And
great strategy. I think
yeah.
that's a very good strategy. A lot of organizations, um, mostly where I've seen this is in wholesale type of organizations where where inventory is a cash flow killer for them. So they'll provide like an incentive of, hey, if you pay your bill, within the net terms, we'll give you a 2 to 5%, kickback incentive, on your pricing, right? So that was something that I thought was critical and a really good strategy. Now, you talked about invoice timing and you said we will invoice like everything that happened that day. Well, like that's great when you're doing 1 to 100 activities. What happens when you have to scale, Willie? What do you do then?
Sorry, on what?
On the scaling, like as the company
Hmm.
grows and you have more activity, you still want to get your invoicing done within the most current time frame. So what was your experience with that?
Yeah, that's I think there as we got our processes in place and systems in place, it was just getting more help on the team, whatever needs to be invoiced or like yeah, we had a couple different people busy with invoicing because we had up to 600 invoices a day that had to be created. So yeah, just kind of scale up with whatever is needed, I would say.
Yeah, and the leverage technology, right? Like,
Yeah.
implementing the tools that I remember that we put in place that allowed us to go, not necessarily paperless because it wasn't paperless, but the paper transaction
Mm.
was scanned from a photograph from a digital device that went, into our portal, our invoicing portal, got indexed, was ready for our billers to process. All they needed to do was verify information. If it met, like, and this was before AI, but I would imagine like now with AI, that AI bot can scan it, automatically put it into invoicing while putting the ones that need rework off to the side, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You remember when you had to go through all that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and that's yeah, systems are so important to find the right tools and systems for your business. That's I think an ongoing challenge for so many businesses, but once that is in place and working properly, it can save you and make you a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like as I go back and I talk about the pitfalls that organizations have to go through in those cash traps, my caution is for those startups, because when you're beginning, you aren't clear about your processes and how you should put them in place. So taking away today, understanding your AR principles, when to collect, how to understand your receivables, and then your payables at the same time is having your terms put in place so that you can allow yourself a gap between when you get paid to when you have to pay your vendors, and leveraging that time to gain you that leverage. So that's important. The second time of when you're going to feel that is when you're scaling and when you're growing. And you started with that, Willie. You said, "Oh, I remember when we got the busiest, this is when it became even more challenging for us." Because you had investments, right? You had to buy more assets, you had more people that came in. Although you had gained more business, all the asset expenses and the people expenses came first before you got paid from the activity that you were going to be doing. So, learning how do you balance that is sometimes really important as you go to scale. You know, don't bring all the bodies in because the job tells you require 10 people. Don't go hire 10 right away. Scale it up, right? Like hire three, get going, get started, and then in the second wave, hire another five. Now you have eight. Now you can sustain the business. Now you really will know, do you actually need 10, or is the number really like seven of the bodies that you need? And then ultimately you'll know what the sweet spot is for the head count. Equipment is a little harder because if the work demands that this is going to be that, you might have to go up front and go do that. But instead of paying cash and cash, depleting your business, maybe take a short term lease option that allows you to purchase down the road when you have received your money and you can make some large payments. But at the beginning, it's just a monthly low payment to get you going on the equipment. So some of those concepts I want to make sure we talked about today, and that you, as you're looking to scale, you're not thinking, yeah, I'm going to scale my business. I'm going to need to go buy that $100,000 machine or that $100,000 X equipment that I'm going to need. Be smart about it. Learn about different options on how do you scale. And don't go buy the newest, most shiny thing unless it comes on maybe one of those lease packages that allows you the time to do so. It might be that you need to rent first before you buy, right? And there's nothing wrong with being smart about your strategy. It's just that you have to have one. Not having one puts you into a position of where you go pay cash and then you leave yourself cash strapped. So those are the concepts that we wanted to talk about today as we close off, that ops series.
Yeah.
And so, Willie, any final thoughts that you want to share with the team?
Yeah, I think with what you just shared, my own experience is I always overspent for what I was uh, hoping the new location would do. Or I would always feel like I was too far ahead sometimes for the work that we were actually going to get in the first while. And and I think that's where my lesson is now. Let's just get started and don't worry about too much what you don't have today, and let's just add as needed.
Yes, I agree 100%, 100%. And that's great that you see it, because I actually just had somebody the other day. And this is a tech company. They're a tech startup, okay? And so they they're a tech company and they missed this, but yet they felt like they were going to be getting a wave of subscribers for their app that they're launching. And so in doing so, they went out and they got like the platinum HubSpot account, which was like, I don't know, a few $1,000s a month. Like it was like the largest package that HubSpot had to offer when they had zero clients. So why would you need to have that? Like the Rolls Royce package, like go buy the Toyota. Like go buy the Honda Civic version before you buy that one, right? Because you don't need it yet. So I think you touched on something that's super smart. I hope our folks here today gain some value on this. And I'd like to open it up first for some questions about the topic today, and then we'll do, of course, our pain point discovery, paint topic of what the team is maybe needing some live help with from the community and from us. So maybe we can all help solve somebody's pain point this week. So let's start with questions. Maybe we'll go with Tyler first here on the question side.
I don't really have a question.
Do you have any comments,
I
any
have some
takeaways?
experiences with cash flow pain for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I thought the lesson was really good. I
Did it
mean, if
resonate? Like, did
yeah,
this
for
hit
sure.
on some of the stuff that you may have seen in the
Oh
past?
yeah. Oh yeah. 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 You feel it in the side. But no, it's always on because I mean I look at it like how much time do I got to make decisions to I kind of buy time. I figure out how much time I have based on what we're spending daily basically on things. So, but it's not perfect by no means.
No, that's okay. It's
So
it's it's it's
yeah,
always, it's fluid, right? Cash flow
yeah.
management is not it's not simple. It is
Mm,
fluid. It's something that you have to, constantly watch, and you constantly have to be able to have eyes on and monitor and react to, because unfortunately we get hit by surprises and customers drop off. Otherwise, you onboard, and then you're pivoting to adjust to those type of activities.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well,
So
let's think about maybe what a pain point for later on, Tyler. So we'll come back to you. All right, I'm gonna go just across my sort of board here. I'll go to Mike. See, Mike, if you have any questions or comments.
No questions. You're talking about very similar things we do already. At Wheeler, we use our service side. They get paid, well, it's service. So our technicians they charge the client when finished the project at the house. It's billed and paid right there. So
Very
everything
good.
that flows super good.
Yeah.
Um, in our other departments, our commercial department, we bill on the 22nd of every month. We sit with our CFO. We go with how much we spent that month between labor and equipment materials.
Okay.
And then we put 5% onto that. And we bill that out every month. And then they usually pay us within 30 days, which it's been pretty good. We haven't had too many troubles with the commercial side.
Oh, good.
And
Good.
then our residential works very, very similar.
Oh,
We invoice at the end of the month, and then yeah, and we get paid. But we always tell our guys, just remember, because we invoice on the 20th. So anything from the 20th to the end of the month to the 30th, that 10 days, try not to purchase much of anything, because we have a lap there that we got to wait for, right? So there's always those conversations of when to purchase major items and how to do that with the team. But yeah, it's a pretty good system we have. Our CFO works really closely with that to monitor it. And yeah, there's just one builder. I'm not going to name names, but he keeps us in arrears, and he keeps us in arrears on purpose, we think. So
that's their
he's
cash flow
always,
strategy.
yeah, his cash flow strategy. Yeah,
That's right.
he's about, yeah, 700,000 is where we sit
Ooh.
always. But
Oh,
every month it's the same number. So it's like he's doing it on purpose, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
for,
and
for
that's
his end.
that's the that's that Jeff Bezos approach, right? He's leveraging, that time that he has, and what allow him to collect, sell his properties, make a few bucks, and then pay the
And
vendors.
exactly. But we get paid every month from him, but we're always in the rears with him. We're
Mhm.
always looking for money from him, but
Yeah, no, and that's, I mean,
yeah.
your exposure with that client, that's a lot of money to have exposed, but again, it's probably a long-term account, and you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, you know what's critical, what you said that stood out for me. It's a topic that we didn't really hit on, but it is a best practice. And that is, hey, communicating towards the end of the month activity and freezing activity. At one point, and I'll tell you the story, at one point at Willie's Trucking, we couldn't buy donuts to go see customers. Like, and it's a true story. I got in shit for buying donuts before the end of the month because I went out and saw an account and I bought donuts, and that we were like complete cash spent frozen, right? So just
Mhm.
yeah, but the story is
Eh,
relatable, and it's a best practice, right? Before closing your month end, guys, like, here's where we're at. We know we've invoiced. We're gonna have a week or so of activity of lull time. Don't spend, like, freeze activity here so that it doesn't deplete our cash flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just to maybe think about Mike there for that customer that doesn't pay. That's how we came up with this kickback idea where we had a customer always paying 90 days and then we offered this 2% kickback if they would pay at least in 30 days. And they started paying in 30 days. They wanted that kickback.
Yeah, it's something we could look at. I think it just they started off the relationship before I was there, and
Mm,
obviously he held that money. Like we're getting paid every month by him, but
okay.
we're always in the rears now. Like he started it off that way, and then
Yeah. And how
now
old would you
he's
say?
always above us. It's frustrating. It's like, oh, it's money owing to us for forever, for 15 years now. That it's just it keeps going,
Mm.
right? It's like
And
but
how old is that?
oh, that's an old client of ours.
Or like the receivable side, or like how long does he wait? Does he wait as long as 90 days?
No, he's within 30 days from when we
Oh,
bill, but we're in the rears, not like he's always owing us money.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's a cycle now. So we do see money from him every single month, but he is still behind on his payments.
Hmm.
So
The
yeah, it's a tough
risk,
one.
the risk with that is sometimes what I've seen, if somebody is always in arrears, all of a sudden when all the relationship all of a sudden doesn't go well, that's the part that you're never going to see at the end.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's right.
Exactly.
That's right. You better be taking him a lot of donuts. Staying close. Staying close with that account. You know what?
Yeah.
Like, did a quick number, but like, if it's $700,000 and you give him a 2% kickback in the year, like, that's $14,000 a month. That's like $168,000 a year. Like, that's a pretty substantial kickback. Like, if I was that account, I would be interested.
Yeah. Well, because we invoice them 700 to 800,000 a month
Hmm.
is what we're invoicing him. So yeah, it's a pretty substantial numbers we work with him. So
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's pretty neat. Good one, Mike.
yeah.
It's a good sort of topic to discuss and some good highlights. I like the best practice there, and making sure that we block off spent towards the end of the month. That's a really good one. It brought me back to the memories when I got scolded for buying donuts at Tim Hortons. Thanks.
All right.
All right, I'll continue going down the list here. I'll go to Peter. You're the next one here. Do you have any questions, comments for us?
No questions, and the only comment I got, I'm just happy I'm not in Mike's shoes. Well, it was great. It was a great call today. I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Peter. All right, we'll move over to you, James. I know you're driving, but it looks like you've paused there.
Yeah, we're just in Slave Lake, trying to get some food.
Oh, nice. Excellent. How's the weather?
Snow, a lot of snow.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we've seen. That's what we've been hearing around that area. We've had a few trucks already getting into
Yeah.
some trouble.
Okay, we're on our way to Edmonton, so yeah, it's we'll see where it'll stop. But it's not snowing now, but they definitely got a lot of snow on the ground.
They do now, eh? Wow. We're here. It's winter
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
It's crunch time. So, what
yeah, exactly.
questions or comments on our topic today around cash flow? How does that resonate with you in your business at Apex Overhead Doors?
Well, I think cash flow for a lot of businesses is a real struggle, especially if you're in the expanding, growing phase. It just takes a lot of money up front before you start generating more money. That's definitely one of the things. But I would say one of the biggest things that has improved our receivables is I used to do all the invoicing myself, so I would do it once a month.
Hmm.
Now with the admin girl we have, she does invoicing. Anything that we can close, the invoicing gets done every day.
Every day.
And so all the invoices that are marked complete every day get invoiced, and that has really helped us with receivables. Like we have, yeah, it's day and night different since when I was just doing it monthly.
Absolutely. Well, you've gained some real, activity, because if you're only invoicing once a month, you were essentially financing through all that period the activity that you had done, earlier in the month.
Yeah. Yeah, and to me it seems like customers pick up on it real quick, and they're like, okay, he's not in a rush to send out a bill, so he's not in a rush to get paid either.
Yes.
And I feel as if you're really on top of it, the guys have been there, and then the next day they go to the mail and there's an invoice already. Then it's like, oh crap, that was quick. I maybe need to get him paid.
Yeah, absolutely. Willie touched on that, right? It's you help create your customers' behaviors. Similarly, as like you create the culture in your organization, you got to learn to make sure your customers know the importance of payment back to your organization.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say for us that's been huge for sure.
Nice, nice. Now you have a human doing it today. How do you see that going into the future?
That's a good question. Willie knows I kind of like AI, but I definitely don't like some of AI. I just recently hired a call center company, and that is not AI. Some of the stuff I'm seeing I like, but yeah, is that what you're referring to as far as invoicing in the future?
Yeah, yeah. As we're talking about like where this is gonna go in the future, how would you integrate AI maybe to speed it up, or maybe not even necessarily AI, but having automated programs that allow you to flow invoices directly from your installation guys that may just finish a job. They click OK, and then that goes directly to an invoice portal without it having to go through a human to then send out.
See, the thing that I still struggle with that idea is even now it would be easy for me because we run iPads in the trucks, and the guys could be doing all that right in the field. The issue I'm having with is nobody at the office gets a chance to even check over the invoice before they would just go and close it and send it away or take, you know what I mean, invoice the customer.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I don't know if I was talking on over top of you there.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say we have our system. Did I come through?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you bet.
Okay. Yeah, so our system, our invoice system, the POS system we use would let the text in the field do up the invoices right away because we run iPads and everything is assigned to them on the iPads. But the thing I'm worried about is no human being checking over invoices before them actually closing them because
Mm,
mistakes and stuff, right? So
yeah, yeah.
that's why I like, even for us, all my guys, they will put all their mileage, hours, parts, and stuff onto the iPads. Amber will take the stuff in the office, make sure it goes onto the correct ones. She'll do all the invoicing, and then she'll just say, hey, you need to check over these invoices. If they're good, away they go.
Right,
Um,
right.
I'm sure there's better ways to do that, but it's just two sets of eyes checking over an invoice before somebody in the field actually goes and closes them up, and there's a whole bunch of mistakes or stuff not invoiced.
Absolutely. And I think that's, at the operation size that you have today, it's what works. It's still a good format to use. Maybe as technology continues to evolve and you become more comfortable with what is available, then it could be something that will allow you to scale, without having to have some of the delays in the invoicing. But it's good to just, have a clean process like you have, and be mindful of of other tools and technology that's coming down the pipe. Not that you have to go to it, but just know what's around you, so that you could be ready for when you're scaling to capacity and you need to go down that road.
All right. Yep. No, that there is a lot of really nice tools out there that I'm sure we could implement and make it work even better than we currently are.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now with the size of business we are, I would say that side of things have really smoothed out a lot for us.
Awesome. That's great. Good job. Great to hear that you have a really clean process and that you're invoicing every day. That's definitely a best practice. So good on you. Excellent. All right, folks.
Good.
Well, we're taking it now to that pain point topic. What is a pain point that you might be dealing with in your business this week that you'd like to discuss with this group? Who has a live issue out there? It
I
could be
think
people. It could be you process. Oh, you do, Tyler. All right.
I always
Let's
do.
talk about
There's at least a few, anyways.
it.
Well, I mean, we received the deposit, but no confirmation still yet. And I think we're going on week two, so or week three. So we haven't got any communication back. And I'm kind of tempted just to give the owner a call again and just kind of ask. But I'm trying to get their leadership, their team to be the connector, because he's kind of hands off, right?
Right.
And so I don't know, but that value in that deposit deplenishes each week because our team, like, we have to keep moving week by week, basically. So each week that goes by, I mean, it gets a little bit more challenging. So we have to
Yeah.
schedule, then we have to, do that kind of thing. So I'd say that's a pain point.
It sure is, because
Yeah,
you've received the deposit, you've got
yeah,
activity that you have committed to completing, but you're
yeah.
not able to get any feedback yet.
And we typically have like a 30-day prep cycle where your company gets ready, we get ready, we meet in 30 days, we do our, then we kind of like start the engagement. So each time we do that, but we have a few other accounts that we're talking to, and I
Mhm.
can't overload my team quite. So we got to it's kind of like a balancing act right now to do that. So
Yeah.
that's been a pain point this week.
Wow, and we still haven't been able to get a hold of them. And did you apply some of that,
Oh,
like
I
pressure that we?
follow up, but I just don't want to over push it on it. And, but not getting a response back, that kind of also red flags me a little bit too, like on communication, because it's so vital that we communicate.
For me,
So,
there's red
yeah,
flags all over this, right? Like,
yeah,
not just from a communication standpoint, but then it's going to be like a customer experience and overall, are they going to be satisfied with the
yeah.
outcome?
It, and then my team, they're asking questions, so I'm trying to give them answers and say, hey, this is what we got,
Yeah.
because they got to plan their week too. But
Yeah, it almost sounds like, man, at some point, are they serious about this engagement or not? Like, is this
I think that's going to be my conversation tomorrow.
right?
is
It's
is
sounding like that. Like for
Yeah,
me, it's almost
yeah,
borderline. Like, are you serious, or do you like? Because you've already spent the deposit. We've got it spent on these man hours.
mhm,
Critical junction point here. We move forward. We need involvement, because if you
mhm,
don't get involved, we can't move forward. This is where
yeah,
it's gonna end. Right? Like that's how I see it. I
mhm,
wouldn't want you to continue to spin wheels, produce something that is going to get backlash and it's not going to, meet the expectations, and you're going to spend more of your own money than trying to correct those expectations.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right? That's what
So,
I see there. Willie, what are your thoughts on this no response ghosting issue that Tyler's been dealing with?
And what was this around again?
So we actually had quite a few weeks before we got the deposit, so they've been kind of late on that. Then they made the deposit, so all good. But now we're going into like week 2, going into week 3 next week, where we still don't have a start date. So I keep trying to set the date and get feedback on if this is going to be good, so we can plan people, right?
Hmm.
But try not to bring the owner in, because I'm trying to work with their management team to be responsive, but we're not really getting that responsiveness.
And have
So
you only
see,
emailed or sorry?
yeah, well, I've emailed the managers, but I've followed up with a call to the owner, which turned out to be really great. And I'll gung ho and I'll make phone calls to the team and see, but I don't really want to be that guy either. So,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think tomorrow needs to be a call to the owner.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think instead of emailing, I would probably follow up with another call and just say, man, we need to kind of know what the start date will be, and so we can plan our side, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be escalating it now, like for sure as a last attempt. Everybody on that organization gets an email from from a senior leadership standpoint. Someone's got to know.
it makes you want to keep adding people to the email string when you're kind of asking for
Hmm.
feedback, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely the owner should be getting an email by now
Mhm.
and a phone call.
Yeah.
That's my pain point.
Yeah, that's
So,
a good one. It's a live one, and it's one that I hope you resolve this week, Tyler. It's good. All right. Well, that brings us right up to 6 p.m. Want to thank everybody again for joining us here at the Inner Circle and in the community. Willie, is there any final thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I think nothing else other than we're still working on developing more courses, and I'm excited about the courses that Hector's going to record here yet in the near future.
Yeah, they'll be dropping in soon. In the community every week. Lauren puts them in on Fridays, so look out for those. As well as the Zoom recordings always go live on Fridays, and the podcast audio of our call goes into Spotify and Apple Music on Fridays. So lots of activity on Fridays. We put a couple new forums into the community as well. One is like wins or celebration type of shout outs for Fridays. And then on Tuesdays, we'd like to talk a little bit about what's happening. What are some of the stuff that you may be dealing with out there during the week that maybe the community members, there's a lot more community members out there that might be able to share that don't attend the calls, but they may be able to interact with your questions. So look out for those posts that Lauren is putting into the community. All right. Well, we'll leave it there, folks. Enjoy your Thursday evening and have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. That's a wrap for today's episode of The Inner Circle. If something in today's conversation resonated, inspired you, or gave you a breakthrough, please share it with someone you care about. The right idea at the right time can change someone's business and their life. So make sure you follow the show, leave a review, and stay connected with us, because this community is built on relationships, real support, and real growth together. Remember that clarity means nothing without action. So choose one insight from today, put it into motion this week, and notice the shift. Thank you for being part of this journey, for showing up for your growth, and for being part of the Inner Circle community. See you in the next episode, and let's keep growing together.